Hello children, welcome to the online class. Today we are going to learn about the chapter The Adventures of Toto. So before we start the chapter, let us know something about the author of this story, Ruskin Bond, who is an eminent contemporary Indian writer of British descent. He prolifically authored inspiring children's books and was awarded the Sahitya Academy Award to honor his work of literature. During his school years, he won several writing competitions, including the Haley Literature Prize and the Irwin Divinity Prize. Some of the other notable works of Ruskin Bond include Blue Umbrella, A Flight of Pigeons, and Funny Side Up. A BBC TV series is based on his debut novel. Short story Susanna's Seven Husbands was adapted into a film as Seven Khoon Maaf, and the film Junoon is inspired by his A Flight of Pigeons. So, let us introduce the chapter. This is a humorous and adventurous story of a naughty monkey named Toto. The writer's grandfather bought the monkey from a Tonga driver. The pranks played by Toto have been narrated in an interesting way and make the story a must-read for us. He wanted Toto because he already possessed a tortoise, a pair of rabbits, a tame squirrel, a goat, but had no monkey. With the arrival of Toto, his mini zoo, grandfather's mini zoo, transformed into a real zoo. Toto's presence was kept a secret, as grandmother hated animals. Toto was kept in a little closet which opened into the narrator's room. Toto tore off the narrator's blazer. Toto, when kept in the zoo, started to trouble the other animals. One day, grandfather had to go to Saharanpur to collect his pension. He took Toto along with him because he was a great nuisance to be left in the zoo, as he would trouble other animals. Toto was ultimately accepted by the family. He was left in the stable to stay along with Nana, the family donkey. But even Nana got fed up of Toto. One day, Toto nearly boiled himself alive by jumping into the large kitchen kettle that had been left on the fire to boil for tea. It was grandmother who came to his rescue and saved him. As days passed by, Toto's mischievous activities did not lessen. Ultimately, grandfather sold back Toto to the Tonga driver and finally breathed in relief. So, as far as the theme and message of the story is concerned, it is based on the experience of people who keep animals as pets. The theme thus deals with the outcome of the interaction between people and animals. It shows that not all animals can adapt themselves to the ways human beings like. It requires a great deal of patience and skill to train animals to acquire a non destructive behavior. The writer wants to convey the message that baby animals look cute and we are tempted to keep them as pets. Howsoever, we should not get carried away by their pretty looks because each animal has its own characteristics. Some animals, like a monkey, are very mischievous. They can cause a lot of damage if one is not careful with them. So, one should not keep animals as pets unless one has adequate information and skill to train and handle them. Animals thrive better in their natural environment. So, the first paragraph we shall start and thereafter we try to understand it. Grandfather bought Toto from a Tonga driver for the sum of 5 rupees. The Tonga driver used to keep the little red monkey tied to a feeding trough, and the monkey looked so out of place there that grandfather decided he would add the little fellow to his private zoo. So here is the explanation. The writer's grandfather purchased a monkey named Toto from a Tonga driver by paying 5 rupees to him. The Tonga driver had tied the little red colored monkey to a feeding trough so that he could not run away. When the writer's grandfather saw the monkey, he had a desire to add him to the collection of animals which he had in his zoo at home. In the second paragraph, we read Toto was a pretty monkey. His bright eyes sparkled with mischief beneath deep set eyebrows, and his teeth, which were a pearly white, were very often displayed in a smile that frightened the life out of elderly Anglo Indian ladies. But his hands looked dried up, as though they had been pickled in the sun for many years. Yet his fingers were quick and wicked. And his tail, while adding to his good looks, grandfather believed a tail would add to anyone's good looks, also served as a third hand. He could use it to hang from a branch, and it was capable of scooping up any delicacy that might be out of reach of his hands. Here the writer gives a description of Toto. He had bright, shiny eyes which were full of mischief. The eyebrows were deeply set on his face. His teeth were like pearls. Many ladies belonging to the Anglo-Indian community got scared when they saw his teeth, which were displayed when he smiled. Toto's hands were dry and wrinkled, as if they had been dried in the sun like pickled vegetables. He had a long tail. The writer's grandfather thought that the tail added to the good looks of an animal. Toto's tail was like a third hand for him. It helped him hang from the branch of a tree. He also used it to lift objects which were beyond his hand's reach. In the third paragraph, grandmother always fussed when grandfather brought home some new bird or animal. So it was decided that Toto's presence should be kept a secret from her until she was in a particularly good mood. Grandfather and I put him away in a little closet opening into my bedroom wall, where he was tied securely, or so we thought, to a peg fastened into the wall. So here the writer's grandmother was against the grandfather's attitude of bringing new pets, birds and animals. So the grandfather thought that they would conceal this fact from her until she was in a good mood. At that time, they would disclose this to her. The writer and his grandfather secured Toto in a little cupboard in the writer's room. In order to be sure that Toto did not escape, they tied him to a hook in the wall. A few hours later, when grandfather and I came back to release Toto, we found that the walls, which had been covered with some ornamental paper chosen by grandfather, now stood out as naked brick and plaster. The peg in the wall had been wrenched from its socket, and my school blazer, which had been hanging there, was in shreds. I wondered what grandmother would say, but grandfather didn't worry. He seemed pleased with Toto's performance. The writer and his grandfather went to Toto after a few hours. The sight was shocking. Toto had torn the decorative wallpaper. He had broken the hook and had escaped from his binding. Also, he tore the writer's blazer into thin pieces. In the fifth paragraph, we read, "He is clever," said grandfather. "Given time, I am sure he could have tied the torn pieces of your blazer into a rope and made his escape from the window." So the grandfather was quite delighted to see Toto's adventure. He felt that Toto was very clever. He said that if they would have given him more time, he would have tied the thin pieces of the writer's torn blazer into a rope and would have escaped out of the window. In the sixth paragraph, we read, "His presence in the house still a secret." Toto was now transferred to a big cage in the servants' quarters, where a number of grandfather's pets lived very sociably together. a tortoise, a pair of rabbits, a tame squirrel, and for a while my pet goat. But the monkey would not allow any of his companions to sleep at night. So grandfather, who had to leave Dehradun next day to collect his pension in Saharanpur, decided to take him along. So these are the other animals there in the zoo. Here is the explanation. Toto was shifted to the servant quarter. He was put in a cage. He would live with the other pets in grandfather's zoo. The zoo comprised of a tortoise, a pair of rabbits, a squirrel, and the writer's pet goat. Toto was very mischievous. He did not let the animals sleep at night. The writer's grandfather had to leave for Saharanpur the next day. He decided to take Toto along as he was unmanageable. The seventh paragraph. Unfortunately, I could not accompany grandfather on that trip, but he told me about it afterwards. A big black canvas kit bag was provided for Toto. This, with some straw at the bottom, became his new abode, means home. When the bag was closed, there was no escape. Toto could not get his hands through the opening, and the canvas was too strong for him to bite his way through. His efforts to get out only had the effect of making the bag roll about on the floor or occasionally jump into the air, an exhibition that attracted a curious crowd of onlookers on the Dehradun railway platform. So the writer was disappointed as he could not accompany his grandfather and Toto on the trip. His grandfather narrated the happenings of the trip to him later. He had got a special bag for Toto. It was made of a strong material canvas. He placed some dry grass at the bottom of the bag. On the trip, the bag would be Toto's home as he would live in it. The bag had a zipper on top of it. The writer's grandfather ensured that when the bag was closed, Toto would not be able to escape out of it. Neither could he come out of the opening as it was closed with a zipper, nor could it bite the strong canvas material in order to run away. Still, Toto made unsuccessful attempts to come out of the bag. Due to this, many times the bag would roll on the floor or it would certainly jump in the air. These movements were noticed by the people on the railway platform and made them curious to know what was inside the bag. In the eighth paragraph, Toto remained in the bag as far as Saharanpur, but while grandfather was producing his ticket at the railway turnstile, Toto suddenly poked his head out of the bag and gave the ticket collector a wide grin. Toto remained secured in grandfather's bag till Saharanpur. At the Saharanpur railway station, the writer's grandfather was taking out his ticket to cross the turnstile. At that time, Toto peeked out of the bag and smiled at the ticket collector. The poor man was taken aback. He was surprised. But with great presence of mind and much to the grandfather's annoyance, he said, "Sir, you have a dog with you. You will have to pay for it accordingly." So here is the explanation. The ticket collector was astonished to see a monkey in grandfather's bag. He recovered quickly and asked grandfather to pay the ticket money for traveling with a dog. In this paragraph, we come to know, in vain did grandfather take Toto out of the bag. In vain did he try to prove that a monkey did not qualify as a dog or even as a quadruped. Toto was classified a dog by the ticket collector, and 3 rupees was the sum handed over as his fare. The explanation here. Grandfather was unsuccessful in explaining to the ticket collector that Toto was a monkey and not a dog. He insisted that Toto was not even an animal with 4 feet, but the ticket collector was firm that Toto fell in the category of dogs. The grandfather had to pay 3 rupees for Toto's ticket. In the 11th paragraph, we read, then grandfather, just to get his own back, took from his pocket our pet turtles and said, what must I pay for this since you charge for all animals? Here is the explanation. Grandfather was disappointed, and in order to take revenge from the ticket collector, he took out his pet turtles from his pocket. He asked if he was supposed to buy a ticket for it too. The ticket collector looked closely at the turtles, prodded it with his forefinger, gave grandfather a pleased and triumphant look, and said, no charge, it's not a dog. The ticket collector took a close look at the turtles, pushed it slightly, and announced that grandfather was not required to buy a ticket for it, as it did not fall in the category of a dog. In this paragraph, we read, when Toto was finally accepted by grandmother, he was given a comfortable home in the stable, where he had for a companion the family donkey Nana. On Toto's first night in the stable, grandfather paid him a visit to see if he was comfortable. To his surprise, he found Nana without apparent cause, pulling at her halter and trying to keep her head as far as possible from a bundle of hay. The writer's grandmother finally came to know of Toto's presence in the house. She allotted him a space in the stable along with the family donkey Nana. On the first night in the stable, grandfather visited Toto. He found Nana restless, pulling its rope in order to stay away from the heap of hay. So here is the family donkey Nana. And in this paragraph we read, grandfather gave Nana a slap across her haunches, and she jerked back, dragging Toto with her. He had fastened onto her long ears with his sharp little teeth. Toto and Nana never became friends. So here is the explanation. Grandfather hit Nana on the back in order to stop it. Nana jumped back with a jerk, and Toto was dragged along with her. In this paragraph, we read further. A great treat for Toto during cold winter evenings was a large bowl of warm water given to him by grandmother for his bath. He would cunningly test the temperature with his hand, then gradually step into the bath, first one foot, then the other, as he had seen me doing, until he was into the water up to his neck. Once comfortable, he would take the soap in his hand or feet and rub himself all over. When the water became cold, he would get out and run as quickly as he could to the kitchen fire in order to dry himself. If anyone laughed at him during this performance, Toto's feelings would be hurt, and he would refuse to go on with his bath. One day, Toto nearly succeeded in boiling himself alive. So here is explanation for para 15. In the winter season, Toto enjoyed having a warm bath. He would pretend to be selfish, and before starting his bath, he would check the temperature of the water. He would copy the writer and stepped into the tub, 1 foot at a time. Finally, he would sit in the water with his face out of it. Then he would rub himself with soap. When the water became cold, he would run out of it to the stove in the kitchen in order to dry himself. Toto got annoyed if he was laughed upon. He would get hurt and then refuse to take bath. The writer recollects an incident when Toto had almost boiled himself. So children, we keep it till here. The remaining part of the story we'll discuss in the next video clip. If you like the video, please do like, subscribe the channel. Thank you so much.